Ready? Good evening and welcome to the February 13th, 2024 New Bern Board of Aldermen meeting. The prayer tonight was supposed to be coordinated by Alderman Kinsey. I don't see him, so I'm going to ask Reverend Ethel Sampson if she would please come and give us our prayer this evening.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Amen.
Heavenly Father, we bow before you in the precious name of Jesus. We thank you for grace and mercy. Most of all, we thank you for your Son who died on the cross for us, that we may have a right and title to a tree of life. Heavenly Father, about tonight, Heavenly Father, I ask Heavenly Father that you touch us in a special way, Heavenly Father. I ask you to create in us clean hearts, Lord Jesus. Renew right spirits within us, Heavenly Father. Heavenly Father, the meeting go forth, Heavenly Father. Let everything go decent and in order, Heavenly Father. If I had any reason to disagree, Heavenly Father, let them get on one accord. You ask, Father, to be your will, Heavenly Father. Touch us right now, Heavenly Father, and bless the poor, the sick, the shut in, everybody, Heavenly Father, and all of those in war, Heavenly Father. Touch them in a special way. Touch the President, Heavenly Father, as a special blessing for these officials here tonight, Heavenly Father. Oh God, touch us in a special way. We thank thee now in the name of the Father, the Son, the blessed Holy Ghost. Praise the Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. If you would please stand with me as we pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Alderman Creel.
Here.
Alderman Royal. Alderman Astor. Mayor Odham.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Best.
Present.
Alderman Brinson.
Here. Okay, Alderman Astor asked me to make an announcement. He has been dealing with some back issues for quite a while, and he wanted everyone to know that's why he is not here. He is going to have surgery this week, so let's remember him in our thoughts and prayers. All right, board item number 3 is to approve the agenda. Any changes or additions or subtractions?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Next is request and petition of citizens. Madam Clerk. Thank you. First up is Aaron Marks of 938 Girton Street.
Hello, I'm Aaron Marks, and I want to thank everyone for providing this opportunity to hear my family's concern. We recently moved to the reserve at Glen Burnie in New Bern, North Carolina. Since our arrival, we've been subjected to a relentless barrage of loud music from the 30-something Ultra Lounge at 1503 South Glen Burnie Road, approximately 800 feet away. The bass thumps into the early hours of the morning, often past 2 a.m., disrupting our sleep and causing undue stress on my wife and baby. After speaking to our community safety officer, Sheriff Deputy Anthony DJ DeJesus, and another older resident, the noise has been an ongoing issue with this establishment. After further research, I learned that a double homicide had occurred in their parking lot in January 23. I quote Officer DJ, "So much blood was in the parking lot, the fire department had to be called out to hose it down." Is this really the type of business we want representing New Bern? This isn't just about one family's peace being disturbed. It's about ensuring that all residents can enjoy their homes without unnecessary noise intrusion. We have filed over a dozen noise complaints since October 23, but law enforcement is unable to take action due to gaps in the current city ordinance and noise meters that they're provided. Current noise ordinances do not adequately address low-frequency sounds like bass, which can penetrate walls more easily than higher frequencies. An A-weighted decibel reading is irrelevant as it is progressively filters out low-frequency sound from the Industrial Noise and Vibration Center. According to a study by the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, exposure to low-frequency noise can lead to sleep disturbances, cardiovascular issues, and other health problems. Since 2000, the World Health Organization has recognized low-frequency noise as an environmental problem. In addition, the health impacts of low-frequency components on noise are estimated to be more severe. Applied Sciences, July 2020. We need an ordinance that takes these factors into account when determining what constitutes a noise disturbance. We are calling on local authorities in New Bern, North Carolina, to revise current noise ordinances so they include measures for low-frequency sound. This will provide a more accurate test level for noise disturbance and ensure everyone can enjoy peaceful nights at home. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Gallagher, are you aware of this issue? And how does it pertain to the noise ordinance?
I'm aware of all of those issues. I'm aware of the issues at that particular establishment. We respond quite frequently. We test the noise every time, and we write civil summonses every time the noise exceeds the 55 decibels, as it's described for residential areas up to 10 p.m. I'm also aware that the low bass noise is not captured on our noise meter in the manner in which the previous speaker just spoke of.
And so you're saying that there is no violation of the noise ordinance?
If it does not exceed 55 decibels, as it is read on our certified and calculated noise meter, it does not violate the law.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Maurice Howland, 502 Craven Street.
Mayor and Alderman, thank you for having me here. As you said, I live in Ward 1, 502 Craven Street. I also own a building, old warehouse, 100 years old, at 406 Guyon Street. I bought it in 2016, converted it into a do-it-yourself workshop. And go ahead, next slide. Oh, you want me? I can do it. Okay. Whoops, I went too far. I have to go back. Too far again. You should have done it. Okay, here we go. In 2018, we started teaching classes. We now have 5 instructors teaching part-time. We teach beginning woodworking, advanced woodworking, wood turning, welding, and we also have specialty classes. Right now, we got a woodworking for beekeepers. We've also provided New Bern with a bunch of cutting boards. Next one. We also do a lot of pro bono work. Went by it there. We've done pro bono work for about every 501(c) in the city. Right now, we're collecting, and some of the gentlemen here in the room have turned bowls for empty bowls coming up this Friday. Don't miss it. Very good fundraiser for New Bern. We're also building ground level windows for King Solomon Lodge. We're about done with that project. After you've completed classes, we require you to take at least one introduction class to shop class. Then you can come and rent time from us and make your own projects. Here the gentlemen are cutting a historic rail for downtown New Bern's, one of the houses here. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, like I said, we do a bunch of pro bono work, and that right there is a bear that was carved by one of the shop classes instructors for the city of New Bern. I think you saw that in the parade. Go ahead and next slide there. Okay, so everything's going swimmingly along until April of 2023, and I was notified by letter from the North Carolina Railroad Company that their easement is now 50 feet wide where it used to be, 100 feet wide where it used to be 50 feet wide. As you can see by their red Sharpie line, it goes right through the middle of my building, which makes the building unsaleable. So if you go to the next one, here's what I bought the property off of. And as you can see, it clearly showed a 50-foot easement, 100 foot altogether, and my building is 51 feet from the center line of the railroad. Go ahead to the next slide there. Okay, in 2017, North Carolina Railroad did another survey. And in this survey, they say all surveys before this survey were wrong. Even the ones they did. One big one they did in 1955. You can barely see it here, but the red area indicates where the easement is expanded on my property. Down to the south and east of that, can't barely see it here, yellow area, that's where the easement is expanded on property owned by the city of New Bern. I'm here to tell you, you've got a problem here with this survey. The survey, I think, is bogus, and I'm working on that. I'm also working that I think the only way my problem is going to be solved is through litigation. And it's probably going to cost me a lot of money. Go on the next slide. So what I would like to have the city of New Bern do is have my back on this. And like I said, my easement problem is going to be solved by litigation. I believe the North Carolina Railroad, a private company owned by the state of North Carolina that controls an asset owned by the state of North Carolina, should be done away with. That asset should be turned over to the Department of Transportation. So when you're speaking to state legislatures, or if you're running for the state legislature, please take in this consideration when you're talking to them. This needs to be cleaned up. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my website.
Next up is Arthur LeBlanc of 2321 Crestview Drive.
My name is Art LeBlanc. Just in here to support Mo and about the workshop. It is an amazing place to learn and to be with other people in that same category as far as quality of work, and learn as much as you can. You can be as good as you want to be or as little as you want to be, but it's just a great camaraderie with many, many people, and I just want to be here to support him. And I believe that it's a shame to have something that take away like that so many people enjoy and will enjoy in the future. So that's just my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Sharon Broadus of 2906 Betty Gresham Lane.
Good evening, everyone. We were here representing Lakeview community down by Carolina Colors last year. A lot of you came by and did a walk through the neighborhood with us. Just wanted to let you know that we're all still here. We appreciate all that time and effort that you all have given to walk with me through the neighborhood to see what is going on, and that you're still working on the issues and problems that we have in Lakeview. And that is all I have to say tonight, but thank you for keeping us in your thoughts, in your work, and your efforts. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Carol Huff of 140 Tom Everhart Road in Lexington, North Carolina. You probably get the award for driving the furthest.
Well, thank you. As you said, my name is Carol Huff, and I am the founder and organizer of an event called Fun in the Sun. This will be year 13 that we're putting it on, and we are looking forward and hoping that the city of New Bern will welcome us and that we can present that event here. Our sponsor, our charity, is the Shriners Children's Hospital, and over the last 3 years we have been proud to have given them over $40,000. So what we do here is not just for the car people, but it's also to help the Shriners Children's Hospital. And I would welcome any questions, any comments, or anything, but I want y'all to know we are here to help the city bring new folks into your city, and all of our folks, the 250 some that we've had with us before, are looking forward to coming here. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is, I believe it's James Crozier, 33 Pier Point, New Bern.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Alderman. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm here in regards to the North Carolina Railroad and everything that has been stated before. I'd just like to add to it. That railroad runs through the city, but at the current time has no customers in the city. All it does is passes through and interferes with traffic. It interferes with boat traffic on the river. It does not provide any positive income to the city or any of the residents. Also, they state that They want a clean environment and everything else, and if you've been by their rail yard, it's anything but a clean, organized environment. So I agree that dissolution would probably be the best thing because it is paid for by all of the citizens, and they should be listening to the citizens, not disregarding what they have to say. The other thing I would like to say, too, is that shop class contributes much, much more than what anybody else has said to the city of New Bern. Many of the artists that are either part of CAGS or other art studios have taken classes over there, and they contribute by selling things that they make and from things that they've learned over there. I've taken classes. I plan on taking more classes, and at some point I may do the same as some of the artists do, even though I'm far from being an artist. But I would just like to say that I think in the best interest of the city of New Bern, Craven County, and all the taxpayers, it would be absolutely prudent to push the state to at least put some constraints on a monger that just is grabbing land for their own benefit and not benefiting the city or its residents. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Denny Cole of 520 Johnson Street.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate being able to address the council. I'm here also to talk about the shop class. I live at 520 Johnson Street. My wife and I are new residents as of last year, but we planned for about 30 years to move downtown and enjoy the rest of our lives in New Bern. I've been part of this type of a organization before. Raleigh and Durham used to have one in the Durham area. 8 or 9 years ago, they went out of business, and scores of really top craftsmen lost opportunities for going out to a shop and building wonderful things. It's just one of the many things that shop class adds to the city. As we've said here, the train seems to be wanting to pull off a land grab. They've done this in other cities around the state of North Carolina. There's even no apparent reason for the land grab that they're going after now. I believe it includes a city park, a residence, and actually portions of 2 businesses. Again, no purpose for that, that's at least been publicized or known. I understand from readings, though, that over the years the railroad for decades has agreed to final surveys. They have congratulated themselves for the accuracy of their work, and now they just look back and pick and choose rules and mistakes from the past to try to work in the present. So I hope the council would dig in and find out what the real baseline is for all of this. I do ask for the same, that you consider to dissolve this land grab. I think the railroad should apologize to the city of New Bern. They provide no benefit to New Bern any longer. And it's my understanding that their contract does agree that they would keep their yards clean. Drive down there one time and see what they consider a clean yard of rotting wood, rusty piles of metal, and complete disorganization. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's all the petition of citizens for this evening. Move on to the consent agenda. It's the pleasure of the board on the consent agenda.
Mayor, if I could, before we move on to the consent agenda, I just have a couple of follow-up questions with regards to this railroad discussion.
Sure.
Foster, the city has property in the railroad right-of-way. I believe that sometime in the past, the city has entered into an agreement with the railroad to compensate them for the property that is, the city property that is in right of way?
That's correct.
And how much do we pay? Do you know off the top of your head?
I believe the last time we looked at that, it's, look and see, I believe it's approximately. I can get you an accurate amount, but George is telling me about $7,000 is what we paid.
And do you know, was that an issue that was negotiated based on the same argument that this property owner is dealing with?
I'm going to have to defer to the attorney on this.
I'm not familiar with what we're talking about. Which piece are we talking about?
And what we have traditionally had is if any type of pipe or electric utility line encroaches on the railroad, we're paying for that, and that most likely is what we're talking about with utility easements with that.
Yes, sir. That's apples and oranges. When we have a crossing underneath the tracks, we have to pay a license to cross under the tracks.
So it was a different issue then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Has the city been approached by the railroad? Again, the same issue that Mr. Howland is dealing with?
No, we have not been approached by the railroad for leases on any additional property, other than what we've already been paying for years.
Okay. Yeah, I think part of the concern, again, having discussed this with Mr. Howland, is that the railroad seems to be picking and choosing who it wants to go after to try to elicit money from them. And I commend Mr. Howland for taking up this fight. Maybe a losing battle for him, hopefully not, but I think he's on the right track to at least try to get some direct answers from the railroad. Can we invite a representative of the railroad to attend a public meeting, have them discuss what the purpose of their role is in this, why they're doing it?
If the board would like to give us direction to invite the railroad to come down, we can certainly ask them to.
Well, I would certainly like to have a representative here. Do I need to make that into a form of a motion to request?
Yes, I think to be safe, obviously we can invite them, doesn't mean they're going to come.
No, I don't
certainly
expect
invite
that they will come, but that's part of the point. So
Sure.
I would make a motion that we send a letter to North Carolina Railroad and invite a representative to a future meeting to discuss this matter.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And in the interim, I'd also, Foster, I know that you do have conversations with representatives of the railroad periodically. I would like to encourage you to, discuss this with them, in addition to extending the invitation to them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Okay, the consent agenda is next up. It's the pleasure of the board.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 13 is the introduction of new litter campaign by Kerry Warren and George Childs.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Hope y'all are doing well. So we've been working for a little while on a litter campaign to roll out with the city between administration, Public Works, and Parks and Recreation. And so as you can see up here, we have our logo and our tagline, which is "Keep New Bern Clean, We Can't Bear Litter." And we're excited to talk about it and what we have planned for this campaign, and we hope you guys will be also. So the program will start each year in March and go through October. We will, as part of this program, have community engagement and education. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on. Expanded adoption programs, community cleanups, infrastructure improvements, incentive programs, and then measurement and reporting of collections of litter. So some of these elements, a little bit more in depth. We have the community engagement and education portion, which will provide opportunities for information material, getting information out about recycling and reusing products, outreach through our existing programs like summer camps, after-school programs, promoting it at our New Bern 101 session so citizens are aware that we're doing this campaign. Also, local collaboration with businesses, nonprofits, environmental and conservation groups to help get our information out and share our branding of this and trying to get the message out in New Bern that we want to keep the city clean. So to continue on community engagement and education, part of that would be public service announcements to put online and then video platforms that we already use, to have a special page for the campaign on our interactive website so that users can go on there and learn about the program, find their local cleanup events, share information, and then just learn more about what we're trying to do as far as making this a litter-free environment. Of course, we will brand this with our new logo and tagline and inspire a call to action for all citizens. Use social media to get out creative messaging and spread the word about awareness and to get more people engaged. And then, of course, media outreach to invite local media to our community cleanups and other events that we may have, as well as promoting the litter campaign at our booths at different events that we may have, whether it's Mumfest, city special events that we have, promoted through all of those events. And so next, George is going to talk about some of the additional elements that he will oversee.
So the expanded program, currently we have the Adopt a Street, Adopt a Block, and Carrie is going to introduce an Adopt a Park program to coincide with those currently. And just to let you know, we currently have 17 active in the Adopt a Street program currently throughout the city. And that way individuals can look to pick areas close to their homes or businesses, or we can certainly provide any area throughout town. We are working with GIS right now to have an active map to show the residents where we currently have people participating in this program. On the community cleanup days, and we have one scheduled, which Carrie will talk about in a moment, we'll be involved with city staff and elected officials and the public to participate in those scheduled events. Infrastructure. So we're going to analyze high traffic areas where we're seeing heavy litter from our litter crew pickups. We do track how many bags they pick up on individual streets to help identify areas that seem to be more impacted by litter. We're also going to provide some additional signage on our current Adopt a Street signs and the new ones, hopefully, when people do sign up for this program. So in incentives, so we're going to have some incentives for some recognition for the people that do participate and the frequency of their participation and the results of their participation. And we can track that, as I mentioned, by how many bags we actually pick up. So currently when we have an Adopt a Street program and somebody has contacted us and said, all right, we're going to have one scheduled for this time, we provide the bags and all the necessary safety supplies for that event. And the bags are a differing color than what you see from the state's orange bags when they do clean sweeps or something associated with the state. Ours are actually green. So when they leave those on the right-of-way, will come by and pick them up right after their event, and we can track how much litter was picked up by the bag count when we go down that street. Investment. So currently what we're planning this year, we're going to add some additional signage to our 4 route trucks, which will not only advertise this litter campaign, but also have a number on it for Adopt a Street, so they'll know that they can contact our department if they would like to participate in that. We also plan to include some additional safety supplies for these events for the current 8 that are coming up. We're seeing a greater need for safety gloves, hand pickers. We provide these safety vests when they do these events, and additional bags for the events. We're also going to include an additional trash trout, which we currently have now within the city, and that was one provided through a grant. And we've kind of identified one location that we think in one of our drainage ditches that'll really benefit. It'll allow us to then, we're not currently servicing the existing trash trout. That is done by what was the Neuse River Foundation. And they're tracking actually microplastics too, but we're not getting their load count from their volunteers when they clean these, but we will have possession of that one when the program ends, and our secondary one will be able to track how much trash we get off of these, which I think is, all of our trash that gets in the ditch or in our waterway ends up in our rivers, and it's very impactful. So I'll let Carrie talk about our upcoming event.
Okay, so our kickoff is going to be Wednesday, March 13th. It's going to be our first community cleanup day. We will work on cleaning up along Pine Tree Drive, and this will be from 3 to 4 p.m. You can meet us in the parking lot at West New Bern Recreation Center, where we will be providing all the items individuals would need to help us with picking up litter. And then these are the days that we have set going forward for the remainder of 2024 up until October. So we would have, of course, Wednesday, March 13th, and then we would go to Wednesday, April 10th. We've identified the area that we are going to work on at each one of these dates. And for the ones that are not right there by West New Bern Recreation Center, we will provide some bus transportation for individuals if they want to meet there and then go out to the sites where we will be working. And so we'll change over to Thursday starting in May 9th on River Road, and then Thursday, June 13th on Amherst Boulevard, Thursday, July 11th on Noose Avenue, Thursday, August 15th on Old Airport Road, and then the remainder 2 dates, Thursday, September 12th and Thursday, October 18th, locations are to be announced. And we're trying to spread these out among the different wards and areas that we see a lot of trash or litter being on the roadways. All right, that's what we have. Y'all have any questions for us?
Board have questions?
No, I just like your little logo. That's very. Yes, it is. And also the slogan, "We can't bear litter."
I think Mayor.
I think that's. Thank you, Carrie and George, for your hard work on this, because I know we had a citizen, Miss Cooper, and I thought she was going to be here tonight, but she's not. She was very adamant about, and she doesn't even live within the city limits, and she was very adamant about keeping litter out of our city. And so I'm so thankful for you too, and your staff for putting this together. And I'm a little disappointed because where I live is not going to be included because we're a state highway. But and we get so much trash from trucks and going to the landfill and stuff like that. But oh well, we just have to continue to keep it clean.
Yep.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Pruitt.
George, if you know off the top of your head, and maybe your presentation did already address this question, but the crews that currently pick up trash and litter throughout the city, where are they picking up the highest volumes? What parts of the city?
Some of the areas identified that we've set up for community cleanup days were some of the streets, and a lot of these streets are impacted by traffic generated near fast food service stations where they're generating a lot of the handheld trash in the vehicle. It's where we're seeing a lot of it, and that's representative of that list. Now, they do service other areas, especially when we get call-ins about somebody's done dumping or just impactful amount of litter in an area. They will address those areas too, but that's kind of how we track where they are. But it's usually more the high traffic from the fast food or retail type places where they produce small bags and things like that. They get thrown out of car windows.
Okay. And I think Alderman Best touched on this point, where you have truck traffic that is traveling throughout the city, and maybe their covers over their dump bodies aren't as effective as they need to be. Is that a large part of the trash that your crew ends up having to pick up?
It's difficult to say. We were being heavily impacted along the Highway 70 corridor with transfer trucks and construction debris trucks hauling to the landfill. I know the transfer trucks, they did a great deal of work last couple of years to put new tarps on their trucks, and DOT has increased the amount of times that litter is picked up on the highway. So we've seen a decrease in that just from what's out there and then the frequency of pickup too. So we're seeing a better section in there. I'm not sure what we're seeing in town is entirely construction debris or trash or transfer trucks.
Thank you.
So, George, let me ask you a question since we're on this. So, for instance, because the other week there was a lot of debris from a particular company that came through, and it's all over Highway 55. And I, my husband, and the team out there, we're part of Adopt the Highway program. But how can, if we see a particular truck, or if it doesn't have a name of the company on the vehicle, or an individual's truck, if we get the license plate, and how can we report them? I mean, is this something that we can do? Can we report them?
I certainly would say you can report it, and you can certainly call it in our office, and if it's information that we can deal with directly, we will. If it is a transfer truck or a GFL truck, somebody that we have direct contact or contracts with, we'll certainly reach out to them about that issue.
Okay.
If it's a private hauler or individual, if you transfer that information to me, I'd likely pass it on to PD to see what they could do by making contact.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Royal?
Thank you, Mayor. Is the staff at Public Works the only ones that pick up the trash, or do you have contracted people to assist with that?
Currently, it is all in-house, and we do subsidize the labor with inmate labor for our trash crew.
I definitely commend you. Trash, and that's a huge thing within the city. I commend what you do.
Well, thank
you so very much, sir.
Thank you both.
I wanted to say, thank you. This is something we've talked about for a while. I know that staff's been working on this for probably several months now. I think the education piece is going to be key. The one request or recommendation I would have is if we could do a QR code. You really see those a lot of places now. If we could put a QR code on the vehicles, people can scan that and would take them to a link, and then they could find out more about the program and what we're offering. I think would be extremely beneficial.
We had talked about the signs we put out with the new logo for like the Dr. Street and different things, putting a QR code on so they could scan.
I think that would be great. And then the other piece would be make sure that we're communicating with Craven County Clean Sweep, so we're not obviously duplicating efforts, but also make sure that we're all working together. I think would be beneficial. So. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Next up is item number 14, consider adopting a resolution approving the sale of 801 Queen Street. Mr. Hughes.
Mayor, we received an offer of $3,750 from Phil Hedrick for the purchase of this property. The bid was advertised with no upset bids received. The property is a vacant .06 acre residential lot acquired by the city and county in 2016 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for this offer, the city will receive $699.11, and the county will receive $3,050.89 from the proceeds.
Does the board have questions? And if the board would like, we could consider 14 and 15 together. Number 15 is to consider adopting a resolution approving the sale of 512 2nd Street. Mr. Hughes.
So, Mayor, All Access Enterprises submitted a bid in the amount of $2,700 for the purchase of this property, which is a .07-acre residential lot. It was acquired by the city and county in 2013 through tax foreclosure. The bid was advertised, but no upset bids were received. If this property is sold for this offer, the city will receive $995.38, and the county will receive $1,704.62 from the proceeds.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, just a clarification. The title of 15 says 512 2nd Street, but all the paperwork says 2nd Avenue. So I wanted to make sure that our motion would be correct. Probably best to include the PID.
Very good. It's the pleasure of the board on 14 and 15.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the sale of 801 Queen Street and 512, and the correct address is 2nd Avenue.
That's correct.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Alderman Creel,
Yes.
Mayor Odom.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 16 is consider adopting a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Refreshing Lives Church for the purchase and sale of improved real property at 212 Kell Road. I believe Mr. Bouchard is going to make this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Odham, Board of Aldermen. Tonight I'm asking your consideration to purchase the property at 212 Kell Road. The electric operation is housed at 210 Kell Road. They have adjoining property lines, and as you've heard me speak before, the electric operation is growing and it's busting at the seams. I believe this is a good opportunity to take a step and plan for today, as well as tomorrow, purchase that property, let the utility expand. It's convenient, it's easy, it's cost effective to just open up that operation next door rather than trying to find additional property somewhere else. Some of the justifications and concerns that we have right now with our existing properties, we've outgrown the administrative space, our warehousing space, material and equipment storage space. There are some safety concerns that this will take pressure, this expanding next door will take some pressure off some safety concerns that we have because of the overcrowding at 210 Kell Road. We also have some concerns that now that we're so crowded there, our emergency response and staging of emergency vehicles during certain situations, we're out of space. We'll be parking somewhere else and our operations will not move as seamlessly. Command and control will be much more difficult if we have to stage our mutual aid vehicles somewhere else. So once again, I'm asking you for consideration for this purchase. We were able to do an appraisal on the property, and the seller has agreed to a price lower than the appraised value. So I think it's a good, solid price, a good, solid offer, and I'd recommend your consideration towards buying this property.
Board have questions?
Yes, sir, I do. You mentioned the appraised value. I have not seen that document, nor the amount.
We could provide that to the board. The amount was the appraised value is $1.4 million.
I'd like to see that document before I vote, please.
Okay.
In addition to that, I know that in the report, you listed the buildings and their size. Would you just refresh my memory as to, there's 3 buildings, and what is the size again, the footage, square footage?
Yes, ma'am. Total acreage is 1.34 acres, and what I call is Building 1 is 6,050 square feet, Building 2 is 9,000 square feet, and Building 3 is 3,000 square feet. All three of those buildings are red iron buildings, metal buildings.
They're nice and sizable, that's good.
That's what makes this a unique fit, because of the size of our vehicles. We need a lot of height, clearing doorways and entranceways to stage our equipment, and these buildings meet those requirements with little modification. We'll have to do some improvements to move in, but all in all, we can make use of these three buildings right away.
Great, thank you.
Charlie, do you have any idea, assuming that the board approves this, of additional costs that will be incurred to make necessary improvements to the buildings, security type improvements, fencing around the property?
Yes, sir.
Ballpark as to what?
$500,000 to $600,000. There's obviously the fencing needs to be moved. There's drainage that needs to be adjusted so that traffic can flow between the two properties. Now there's a drainage ditch that separates the two. So that'll have to be resolved. The chapel will have to be redone. We don't need the chapel space. That'll be turned into a different type of working space. All the electrical does not meet our needs. It's a voltage and it's a capacity that is much lower than we need to operate in that building. There's probably also some generator work that needs to be done. Not quite exactly sure right now. We might have to buy another generator. We may be able to tap into our existing generator at Kale Road, but I haven't resolved all that engineering yet. But in general, probably $500,000 to $600,000. The doors, there's doors on one side of all buildings. I want to add doors to the other side so the traffic can flow in and out of those buildings and using the ingress and egress that's already there. So there's a bit of improvements that need to be made before we can move in.
I would assume that you are incorporating those costs into your
Yes, sir.
current budget proposal in anticipation
Yes, sir.
of that?
Yes, sir.
And the time frame that you would anticipate being able to have those facilities upgraded and into a usable condition?
Well, some of some benefit will happen immediately. Just relief off our warehousing. Not a lot of modification needs to be done there. We'll be able to take some pressure off the warehouse right away. But in the end, it's probably a 6-month process to get us really solidly in there and on our feet.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yep.
Alderman Brisson.
Kim, can you go over some of the, and I realize you haven't done much of this yet, but potential for financing of this? I assume it's going to be financed.
Yes, sure. Sure. So we have some debt rolling off over the next couple years. We're in going into 2027, we'll be just down to one installment purchase loan. So we have about $1 million dropping off over the next couple years. And that loan for electric is at $210,000 per month, or per year is what we're paying. And then we'll have for a $2 million loan, well, $1.4 million loan, we were looking at about $180,000 annual payment. For $2 million, you're over 10 years, and then for $2 million, you're looking at probably about $300,000 for that. And then, so we have the capacity to do so. I do have the declaration of intent to reimburse on the February 27th agenda, And I've met with the LGC. We submitted the appraisal to the LGC. They're well aware of our plans moving forward. I just need to get the application in after we decide. And that'll go, it has to be to the LGC either March 5th in order to be on their April 2nd meeting, or April 2nd for their May 7th meeting. We do have the capacity to pay this in, advance and then get the loan later.
Kim, is one of those loans the building itself, the upfit that we did to Kell Road several years ago? Do you know if that's one of them?
One of them was an installment purchase. That comes off, that's only got like an $88,000 balance. I'm not sure what that one is. That comes off this year.
Okay.
And then we have 2 revenue bonds.
One of those for AMI.
AMI.
And
Something before my time.
Yep.
So I was
One
thinking
from 2014.
we moved over there in 2014 or 15.
That might be it then. She's saying 2014.
Yep,
Okay.
2014.
That's what I was thinking. It's
was
10
one.
years typically, so that would be coming off. Anything else, Alderman Britson?
No, thank you.
Alderman Best, did you have a question?
Yes, Charlie, with the upfit of the building, would you be able to have some of that work done in-house?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes. We'll take advantage of our in-house labor.
okay. And even with maybe the aid of other departments that could come in? I know Public Works was very instrumental in a lot of work that was done with the building of the community center.
That's right. They're a great resource for us, and great advisors for us. We certainly will be consulting with them, whether or not we need to task their labor force. I'm going to try to avoid that as much as possible, but I'm sure if I asked for it, they would be right there to help.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Again, Mr. Hughes, you said you did not have that document available tonight.
That's correct. We do not. I've already emailed it to the board for your review. And if we need to get a copy for you to look at it right now, we can certainly do that.
I have a copy with me.
All right.
Yep.
Do we want to take maybe a couple-minute break to give Alderman Royal a moment to review the document?
Sure. That's what we'd like to do. I'd be happy to entertain that motion.
So move.
How long, Alderman Kinsey? Let's put a time on it.
Is 10 minutes too long?
No, sir.
Okay, have a motion to recess for 10 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're in recess for 10 minutes. Okay, we are back in session, and we are at number 16.
Thank you for taking a quick recess so I could address those issues.
Yes, sir. Board have questions, or what's the pleasure?
Mayor, if there aren't any further questions on the part of the board, I'd like to make a motion authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Refreshing Lives Church for the purchase and sale of improved real property at 212 Kale Road.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Kinsey.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Alderman Creel,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Move on to item number 17. Consider adopting an ordinance to amend section 70-217 of chapter 70, traffic and vehicles, article 6, stopping, standing, and parking. Chief Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, Board, City Manager. I would like to offer an explanation. The New Bern Police Department has responded to several parking complaints within the greater New Bern area. specifically regarding vehicles that park on the left curb facing the wrong way. I'm sure we've all seen this in our communities. We've all seen this throughout the country. And in most places, this action is in fact illegal. When we respond to these areas, we have found that our current parking ordinance 70-217 is specific only to the downtown business district, which makes enforcement anywhere other than that area problematic. In order to park on the left side, on the wrong side of the street, a vehicle has to violate 2 traffic laws, with the same traffic law twice. And that is they have to drive on the wrong side of the street to park, and then they have to drive on the wrong side of the street when leaving the parking. We believe that it's a public safety issue. We believe that it is in the best interest of the city of New Bern and the citizens to have the same parking requirements that are here in the downtown district to extend itself throughout the city. So what we want to do is simply cross out the term downtown district in the code, which would make it a violation throughout the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions if asked.
Board have questions?
Chief, I certainly appreciate this matter being moved forward. I had talked to Chief Toussaint, your predecessor, and I didn't realize at the time that we could not enforce it anywhere other than just the downtown business district. So I certainly am appreciative of this because I do see it in the downtown historic district, the residential part, where people are doing it quite often. And it's residents and contractors, and it's just very frustrating to see, as well as being a safety hazard. So I applaud you moving forward with this. But quick question, what would the violation entail?
A parking ticket.
And what is that? How much is that? I'm just curious.
I don't know what the amount is, but I certainly can get that information and provide it. Now, when I say parking ticket, we also have warning tickets. Part of our strategy of enforcement includes education. A warning ticket sometimes is the most appropriate way to address a problem. We will know that it is a continuing problem, and potentially a warning ticket is not appropriate if the same person does it multiple times. So there may be no penalty other than a warning, but officer discretion is what it is, and my staff knows warnings are appropriate. Not everybody deserves a ticket, and sometimes not everybody deserves a warning. But I can get you that dollar amount if you want.
Chief, is that a civil or criminal?
It's a civil.
It's a civil. Okay, you answered one of my questions. The other question I had is, I'm thinking about Jimmy's Creek over in Ward 6. Very, very narrow streets, and that's probably really the only place that I think I can remember seeing parked on the opposite side of the road. So I think you answered my question already. You'll probably make a sweep through there and identify those that are parked wrong, let them know that, and then it's not like overnight all of a sudden we're going to start getting a rash of tickets, because I think there's several people just based off of where they live on the street that probably park that way. So
I was on Oakland Avenue around 3:30 this afternoon speaking with a resident, and I made the comment to that person. I said, sir, we got 2 problems. The first problem is you're parked blocking half the roadway. And the second problem is, come tomorrow, if the board approves this, you'll be violating the parking law. And he was unaware that, he wasn't unaware that he was blocking half the street, but he was unaware that he couldn't park that way. And he said, well, I'll certainly make some adjustments.
Any more questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance to amend section 70-217 of chapter 70, traffic and vehicles, article 6, stopping, standing, and parking.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Best.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Brinson.
Yes.
Alderman Creel.
Yes.
Alderman Royal.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Next up is item number 18, discussion of board's rules and procedures. Mr. Hughes.
So at previous meetings, actually Alderman Kinsey is the one that brought this up, that he would like to see the board have discussions on whether or not you would like to update any of the rules and procedures. So we have provided some of that for you tonight to review. If you have any questions, we're happy to assist you.
Alderman Kinsey, you want to kick it off?
Yes, sir. It's just adding something to that, just a rotation basically. And I think the rotation will be good for everyone, because the mayor's job is to break the tie. We changed that when I first came on, that we changed that ordinance where the mayor could vote. But the true duties are, like I just said, it's just breaking the tie, basically. I don't know where the board is with that at this moment, but I guess they will chime in momentarily.
Yeah, I'll kind of share why I chose to do it this way. That may help provide some context. So, I think is this your fourth? I think it's your fourth board you've been on. Is that fourth or fifth? I can't remember. So, when you first got on here, I believe
We changed the charter.
So when Mayor Bettis would call for a roll call, he would start at Ward 1 and end at Ward 6, and that's the way it always ended. When Mayor Outlaw got into the seat, he said, well, it's not really fair to Ward 1 to kick it off every time and Ward 6 to end it every time, so he would flip-flop. One vote would start with Ward 1, one vote would start with Ward 6, and the next vote, it would flip-flop. The reason that I decided to do it this way as the chairman of the meeting was it provides the opportunity for nobody up here to take the quote-unquote heat if there's a controversial issue and it happens to land with an alderman to make that deciding vote. I was willing to take the heat with that. Frankly, I don't care how we do it, to be honest with you. But there's one thing that I would probably caution us, and I'll let the attorney chime in if he wants to, is whatever the board decides is if there ever comes a time where the mayor is the first one to vote, that gets a little bit sticky because the mayor's not really supposed to be highly engaged with the debate and starting off the notion in a certain way. So, Mr. Attorney, you want to provide a little color to that one?
The only guidance we have legally is that the mayor, by statute, is the chairman of the meeting. And the chairman is not to engage in any robust discussion. It's our tradition across the state for mayors to ask questions, share thoughts, but technically if the mayor is going to actively engage in debating an issue, then the mayor would turn the gavel over to the mayor pro tem and then engage robustly in some discussion. So the public policy is that we don't want the mayor to effectively be in charge of where the board is going to end up. So where the mayor was going in terms of speaking first or voting first, it can set the tone as to this is what the mayor wants, so everyone get in line. So if there is going to be a rotation, I probably would suggest that you avoid having the mayor vote first, just to avoid leaving the impression that the mayor's making you do something or the chairman of the meeting is directing the outcome. That makes sense?
Let me say this, and maybe that'll help me out. The only time that the mayor votes is tie-breaking.
Used to be that way.
That's if we change the charter back to that.
That's correct. Currently, the mayor votes exactly as an alderman.
Right, right.
But as a practical matter, with a 6-member board, I think what the mayor's saying, with a full 6-member board, if there is ever a tie, the mayor is always going to be in the hot seat by voting last.
Oh, okay.
That's the point that he's making. So he would break a tie, although that's quite rare, but that would be the outcome, rather than putting an alderman in that spot.
And again, if the board wants to set a policy on it, I have no issue. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, let me add regarding that, whichever way we vote tonight, or whatever we determine, or whatever amendments or adjustments we make, I want to make it clear I can handle my own hot seat. Secondly, I would never feel that that I was being guided or coerced by a decision of our mayor. I just wanted to make that statement personally for myself.
Yes, ma'am, and my comments were more to the public and not the board. It's the perception when the mayor says yes, and then it follows with 5 or 6 yeses. It would leave a citizen with the impression that somehow the mayor is dictating the outcome when he is supposed to be the chairman of the meeting and just organizing it so that everyone understands what's on the floor.
Thank you. But I just want to make sure, the mayor said that's why he chose to be last, was because he wanted to take the heat. So I'm piggybacking off of what he said. Thank you, Mayor. I can take my heat.
Very good. Maybe you'll get that opportunity.
I don't want to, but if it shows up,
She is the mayor pro tem.
I am willing and ready.
All right. So on that particular issue, because I've got a couple other things I want to bring up. You want us to take these one at a time?
It would
or-
help us take them one at a time, because the big change is that the mayor as the chair has always had the discretion to organize those votes the way the mayor sees fit. Meaning it's never been codified. So if we're going to, for the first time, create a rule as to how the board is going to vote in order, it will only be changed in the future by future boards, if that's the way we would go. So your option is to leave it as it is. It's the mayor's discretion. This mayor may do it one way. The next mayor may do it differently. But the rules of procedure, it's going to take the full board action to rearrange that.
And that's the reason why I brought it up, because I've sat in different settings myself. The other board members have not. So I'm just open up the option for them to make that decision. And I want to go back to Alderman Royal's position. I take my own hit as well. You know, I rather take my own hit because I got add a little character to it. You know, I hit harder.
So just for our benefit, my sense is that the notion would be that the new board procedure would be to start the first vote with Ward Run, and every vote thereafter alternates in order, with the mayor being included linearly in that process and never always last. So the first item on the agenda that has a vote starts with Ward 1. The second item that has a vote goes to Ward 2. And we just go in a line and circle back throughout the entire meeting, and we start over fresh the next meeting.
But
Is
what
that
you-
the thinking?
Yeah, but you had me until you said the mayor would never vote last.
I meant, I
Never vote first.
right, never on every issue.
Okay, all right.
Yes, every 7th vote, you're voting last.
So that's one option.
Right.
Unlike the process, how we handled it when Mayor Outlaw was in, he would sometimes he would always start with Ward 1, and then he would start with Ward 6.
That's another option.
Yeah.
It is.
That'd be option 2.
Yes.
Okay. Any other flavors?
I have no problem with what we're doing currently.
Well, I don't either. I mean, I don't have a problem with it either. apparently, there's an alderman that does, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Don't want to leave nobody out.
So you want to make a motion?
No, go ahead.
No, I'm not going to make a motion. I don't know that I can, but.
No, I thought you had something to
No,
say.
no, sir.
Okay, so we'll make a motion that we'll start with Ward 1. That's one of the options, correct?
Well, are you suggesting Ward 1 for the first vote, then Ward 2, and then work our way around?
Yeah, you could try that.
Or always Ward 1, because when I first started 30 years ago, it was always Ward 1.
Yeah, I know.
And we just went down the loop.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we can start there and see what is the pleasure of the board.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to start roll call votes in the future always with Ward 1. Do we have a second?
Question.
Sure.
I think that's kind of picking on whomever is sitting in Ward 1 seat. To always start the vote with Alderman of Ward 1.
I don't hear a second. Do we have a second to that motion? Okay. You want to try Plan B?
Second then.
Okay, we have a second by Alderman Royal. Let's have a roll call vote, ironically, starting with Alderman Brinson.
No.
Alderman Brinson.
No.
Alderman Creel.
No.
Alderman Royal.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
No. Now we have a tie. So nothing happens, correct?
Nothing's correct.
That's right.
Plan B?
All right.
What was, restate Plan B, please?
We'll start with.
Well, I'll make the motion because I don't want to be here all night. I'll make the motion that we use our current procedure and that in future boards, it's up to the discretion of the mayor on how to start the meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Could you restate the motion, just so?
I am, yes, I'll say that I think that we should continue on with our current voting procedures as was defined by the mayor when we started this board, and that all future boards, it still can be defined by the mayor.
I'll second that. If I could just, I'll second it, but I would like to make a comment.
So we have a second, so your comments are open, sir.
A year ago, or thereabouts, when the mayor brought this issue up for discussion, we all talked about it and ultimately approved it. And I seem to recall that the discussion was that we would give it a try for a year to see how it works. And I think over the past year, I think it's worked well for us. I don't recall that we've had any problems that have come up that caused some concern. So I'm inclined to just leave it as is. The board can always bring it up again if for any reason there is a need to discuss it further, but it seems to be working well for us, so I don't see a problem with just leaving it as is.
Okay, any further discussion? Let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Creel.
Yes.
Alderman Royal.
In the interest of time, yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
What was that last word you said? Time. Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Brinson.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, I believe that's unanimous. Okay, so we will continue with the same process. Before I mention something that I want to talk about, is there anybody else that had anything in the rules and procedures that were of concern?
I had one item I just wanted to bring up. I had raised this previously And as a result of a recent action, a recent vote that the board took, it just, I think, needs to be restated. That has to do with board appointments of individuals to other boards and committees, commissions. Our rules and procedures indicate that if a resident is interested in being considered for an appointment, they need to fill out an application with the city. That information is then provided to us for review. Most recently, with the appointment that Alderman Kinsey had to the Planning Commission, I don't recall that we received any information about the individual that Alderman Kinsey nominated. We did approve the individual, but it's frustrating for me to vote on somebody that I have absolutely no information about the individual, what their backgrounds are, you know, what their thoughts are, what their interests are in the city. So I would like to remind the board that our rules of procedures says that we are to receive something in writing about individuals who are being considered for appointment. In this one instance, we didn't follow that, and I'd like to ensure that in the future that we have some paperwork in front of us before we make appointments.
Any other questions or comments regarding that topic?
So is that in the form of a motion?
It's already there, I think.
It's already there.
Yeah.
It's just a reminder to the board. I don't know if anybody else has any concerns like I do about this procedure. I just wanted to remind the board that I think it's important for us that we have an opportunity to at least have some familiarity with individuals who have expressed the desire to be considered for appointment to various boards and committees.
Yeah, Alderman Pruitt, I certainly don't think that's a bad thing. To be honest with you, typically when someone makes an appointment or a nomination, it's almost a rubber stamp. I only know of a few times since I've been on the board where somebody would vote no against somebody, but I think it's certainly fair because, you know, we do need to look at the quality and the qualifications of individuals that we put on boards. You know, for example, I believe it maybe planning and zoning mentions something about having some sort of architectural background or a building or something like that. And, you know, if you put somebody on there that is a computer engineer, not saying that they couldn't be great, but it would help if we had some that we were trying to consider. So duly noted. Anybody else?
On this same subject, or we're moving forward?
Well, if you have anything on that subject, we can talk about it, but if you want to move to something else.
Not on that particular subject.
Okay. Go ahead, Alderman Bess.
I know in the past there was a lot of chaos going on about having, when our citizens come up for petition of citizens, that they have to state that their address. And I noticed that here in the rules of procedure, it says just they give their name and, what does it say? By giving their name and stating whether or not they are residents of the city, but not actually stating their address. So moving forward, is that something that we're gonna ask that citizen when they come forward to the podium? Because I noticed tonight you just said the person's name and address.
Yep. And
So-
I've been doing that. Again, I'll explain why I do that. I'm sure you all experience the same thing, but people think because they have a New Bern address that they're a citizen of the city of New Bern.
Mm-hmm.
And this document goes in, Madam Clerk, these petition of citizens, they go in the record, correct?
do.
So all this is a public record. So when someone comes to speak to us, they are basically accepting the terms of the law that says your information is going to be made public. That's the reason I tell folks all the time that people come here and they get nervous. They say, I don't like doing this. And that's why I think it's important that we share to them, this is not the only option that they have to contact us. All of our information is public. I take phone calls and emails all the time from people about issues. This, honestly, unless they just want the publicity of coming here and being on camera, this is almost a last resort. And, you know, if you don't get through to somebody, you have this opportunity to come, and that's set out in state statute. So that's the reason that, you know, we ask people, and a lot of times we would ask them to state your name and address, and they just wouldn't do it altogether. So that's the reason I just started reading it, because it's a public document anyway. But if the board, again, if the board says, hey, we don't want the address disclosed on camera, we can not do that. But again, it's just a matter of somebody asking, and we have to tell them. So.
Well, the way that you're currently doing it, you're giving the address. So then if that's the case, if the board wants to continue that way, it needs to be added here in the procedure, but they need to state the address. Because this is saying that residents, if you're a resident of the city.
You're correct. Mr. Attorney, you have any guidance on that one?
I would really also view that as a chairman decision, a mayor decision as to how you want to address that. The forms have been in place for a very long time. Historically, the address, what inevitably happens, if someone just says, I'm a resident of New Bern, a lot of times they aren't, because they have a New Bern zip code and they don't understand. They could live in Trent Woods and think they live in New Bern. Second thing that happens is inevitably halfway through the speech, we want to know what ward are you in, so that who can come help you, because we don't know where you live. So what happens is, when you don't do that, we end up digging into it and trying to figure it out so that we can be more helpful and responsive, because no one knows who to respond to when the person leaves the podium.
I would say to Alderman Best's point, though, this is actually in the rules and procedures, and it just says each speaker will speak it from the podium and begin their remarks by giving their name, stating whether or not they're residents of the city. So we probably, if the board wants to continue that process of knowing where the person lives, then we probably should adjust this in the language, I would think. Unless we just want to leave it up to the speaker to give their discretion on whether or not they're in the city, and then it's a guessing game for us.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that would cut time in trying to find out whether or not, because I think city clerk, you are the one that actually go in and make sure that they are a resident of the city? Or who actually assesses that moving forward?
That's the reason I read the address, because then we all know.
Exactly,
So in this issue, I think what I'm hearing is that we want to know whether or not to ensure that they're a citizen of New Bern, and by doing that, by stating their address, lets us know. So if the board is okay with that current procedure, I think we should probably entertain a motion to add that language to the rules and procedures. Is that fair, Mr. Attorney?
It is, and I guess what I was saying earlier too is both can still be true. They can state they're a resident, and you're free to give their address for the board's benefit, because that application is a public record.
Yeah.
So it's more semantics. We can certainly codify it and make them say it, but ultimately there's going to be somebody who says, I refuse to say it. And then we're just twirling around.
Okay.
But like you just said earlier, it gives us the opportunity to serve whatever situation may be occurring, that we can deal with it directly instead of trying to look for a needle in a haystack.
The other version is to codify the form, Mayor, is to put the form, reference the form in the rules of procedure, so that it's clear during petition of citizens to speak, you have to fill out the form, and that form has the address.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Put the form in the rules and procedure that includes the address.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Alderman Priel,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes. Motion carries. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I saw my own question.
Okay, all right. I wanted to bring up a couple of questions for the board. So if you look at page 2 of the rules and procedures, letter D is cancellations. This is something that we added several years ago when there was a pretty bad, I think it was an ice storm, that we had a meeting here and there were some concerns that we could not have canceled that meeting. So section D is any regular, special, or recessed meeting of the Board of Aldermen shall be canceled upon a declaration of a state of emergency by the Craven County Department of Emergency Services. In the event of such cancellation, the city shall notify the local media of the cancellation to the extent possible, cause a notice of the cancellation to be posted at the doors of the board's usual meeting room. So I think what happened when we had a storm a few months ago, I believe that there was a state of emergency issued by the governor, but there wasn't for the county. So based off of our rules, we could not have canceled that meeting. So I'm just bringing this to the board's attention. If you want to continue the way it is, again, I'm fine with that. If you want to put a little more flexibility and say if it's a state of emergency within the state, not necessarily the county, then we can do that. And the ironic thing is that the mayor has the ability to declare a state of emergency. So I guess typically I could call a state of emergency and we could cancel the meeting, but it doesn't even match up with the language here because it says Craven County Department of Emergency Services. So it may be just something very minor, but I know there was a concern expressed that why did we have that meeting in the middle of a storm? So anyone have any
Again, what
thoughts?
needs to be changed?
We could include either a county or state declaration of emergency, or as a second alternative, include the mayor. Right,
I'd
so
like to make a motion that we change the language to county or state. And what was that with the mayor?
well, another option would be county, state, or mayor declared state of emergency.
Including the mayors? I say county, state,
County, state,
or mayor
or the mayor.
to declare a state of emergency. Is that correct?
To cancel a meeting.
To
Yes, if
cancel
that's
a
what the,
meeting
yes. If
by
that's-
declaring a state of emergency.
Currently, meetings are canceled when the county declares a state of emergency. You can add the state to that, so it would be county or state. And another option would be county or state or mayor.
County, state, or mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
period.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the motion. I think it's important that we do add the mayor, only because you could have an event happen in the western side of the state, up in the higher elevations, that doesn't affect, eastern North Carolina at all. So the governor might declare a state of emergency, but he's really doing it for a part of the state and not including the entire state. So we could end up canceling a meeting based on the governor's declaration, but not even be impacted in any way by whatever the event is. So I think it's important that you keep a level of control locally, and I realize county's in there, but it wouldn't hurt to have the mayor added to that process.
Mr. Attorney, it also says the Board of Aldermen meeting shall be canceled. Does that need to have some flexibility in there? Because if what we're saying is that the state of emergency is declared by the governor, or if we add the governor to this, the way it's written, that means our meeting shall be canceled.
That's right.
So do you get that there needs to be a little cleanup there? Because what Alderman Prill brought up, great point. If there's a mudslide and the governor declares a state of emergency, our meeting should not be canceled automatically because of this.
I thought, well, and I may be wrong in this, but I thought that the governor's declared state of emergencies now have to include counties, the counties listed.
Let me check that, because that was my same gut reaction as well. Let me verify that, and if not, then I'll bring this back to the board, and we might exclude the state. But my recollection is that statute has it at the county level. to
So
avoid this.
essentially, you're going to bring back a new document anyway?
Oh, yes, sir.
So if we just continue with
Yes,
other
sir.
things, giving you direction, we don't need to take a roll call vote for each one of these?
That's right.
Are you good with that?
Exactly. I'm
Okay.
taking direction, and you'll see this in the other form.
Okay, so no need for the motion in the second, so he's got direction to clean this section up. Everybody good with that?
Good.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to mention, and this was brought to me by staff, I believe the previous board had some general conversation one time about ensuring that presentations were placed on one particular meeting during the board, not the other one. I don't know, I don't even know, Ms. Clerk, was it the first or the second meeting of the month?
It's the first meeting.
It was the first meeting of the month.
So all presentations outside of staff, right? Was that the understanding?
No, it also included staff.
Okay, so the previous board never took a vote on that. I think there was some conversation and there was never anybody that really opposed. So from staff standpoint, we need to give them some clear direction on whether or not we feel like presentations by staff or the public or anybody else should be made on one particular meeting. So I'll open it up for discussion.
Which would be the first meeting, which doesn't clutter up the second meeting. We have it all done in one meeting once a month.
Well, I kind of take the opposite thought that staff ought to have the flexibility to put it on either meeting. That way you don't have 10 presentations on the first meeting and we're here till 9 o'clock, and then the next meeting, it's like 30 minutes. I'd rather space it out and be a little more consistent and actually allow the staff. I mean, I don't mind saying, hey, if there's any public presentations, put it on the first meeting, because that's when we have the petition of citizens. But I would allow staff the flexibility to put their presentations on either one of them in order to balance some of the meetings out.
But that was the whole thought of the whole situation, was to do it that way. But this is the board decision, not mine.
Anybody else have any thoughts on this one?
I agree with Alderman Brinson. I think it's important that we provide as much flexibility as possible for presentations to be made at any meeting.
Anyone else?
My preference would be to have them at the first meeting. That way I know what's going to be happening at the first meeting, so I can make plans for that, to stay here longer.
Alderman Royal?
Let me take this hit.
Okay.
I think it's good that the staff have flexibility to do either meeting, but public relegated to the first meeting.
I agree with that.
I think that's what.
So the public would be directed, and again, it's very limited. I meant for the public to actually make a presentation, it really is technically supposed to come before the board under new business, and somebody make a motion, have a second, and then we vote on that. So that's really almost negated, honestly.
But they have made presentations during their 4 minutes.
That is correct. And that's always going to change unless the board decided to change that process, and I don't think we have any intention on doing that. So, you have your direction there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was the only thing I had. Does anybody else have anything on the rules and procedures? Okay, very good.
I do.
Sure.
Because I'm not very clear about, I can't remember, if we all agree that when it comes to a board member having involved in a discussion about a matter, if there's a conflict of interest there, if that person should recuse himself and then be a part of the discussion. And I can't remember, and I look here in the, on page 12 of the rules and procedures. So how, Attorney Davis, I know that was a long discussion about that, and I can't remember how we concluded that, but moving forward, I mean.
Yes, ma'am. The two flavors of conflicts. We have the actual technical conflicts where the statute precludes you from participating in the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Let me back up. we start with the statute that says you must vote. You ran for office, you have the seat, you're a public official, your duty is to vote. So we always start with that benchmark. The statute says, however, you can't vote on a contract to give yourself money. That's a conflict of interest, whether it's you or an immediate family member. So we have some bright line tests that preclude you from voting, and in some cases it's a crime. And in those cases, we disclose it, you cannot participate, you cannot vote. Then we have this other category that just feels uncomfortable. This doesn't feel right, and it's not a legal conflict, and you have a duty to vote. And what I recommend to you when you call me about such things is to advise the board, I'm uncomfortable because X, Y, or Z. It's my cousin. I can't check the box under the statute, but I don't feel good about voting for something for my cousin. That refusal to vote is fine. You can say, I'm simply going to recuse myself and not vote. Under the statute, you can do that, but it will be considered a yes vote on the matter, where under a pure conflict, it is no vote at all. So that's kind of how we handle those things.
Okay.
To the extent you have questions, always before the meeting, and you know this by now, just reach out to me and we'll talk it through and make sure that we're on safe ground. That help?
Yes, and I'll also, on page 12 of it, number 4, says to disclose their interest to the city manager for proper consideration and action. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
I thought a part of that, and maybe I'm just recalling a portion of the previous discussion, but I thought that if a board member, using category 3, a board member raises a concern, that concern gets discussed, reviewed, that the board could vote, take a simple vote to either say, yes, you can participate, or no, you should recuse yourself. I thought that's where we
yes, sir,
left it.
and that is exactly. I oversimplified. There is a version where if you're uncomfortable, the board can vote to excuse you from voting.
And then that would then not
And that would negate the yes vote.
Yes,
Exactly.
it would address that issue.
Exactly, yes, sir.
It's clear as mud, Alderman Best. Are you good with that?
I'm good with it now.
Is there some way we can clearly define that language in the context of this conflict of interest? I mean, look like we're saying a lot of things that are not written or requires interpretation.
I'll take a pass through that and see if I can't
Thank you.
make some adjustments to help. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything else on item number 18? Okay, we will move on to item number 19, appointments. Does the board have any appointments?
Mr. Mayor, just by way of explanation, we had a person resigned from the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee because he was not able to make many of the meetings. In that meeting where the board accepted or discussed his resignation, they did ask that we look at the applicants and appoint someone that was a runner or someone that was a walker, because everyone that was left on the board primarily had the perspective of a cyclist. And so when I went through while we had great applicants, that I probably would have appointed, Mr. Henry Gleisberg is a marathoner and a ruck marcher, and I contacted him, and he is still willing to serve, so I'd like to nominate Mr. Henry Gleisberg for that position.
Do we have his application?
It was sent to you by the clerk, I thought. Yeah. And it was about 5 applications, I believe, a total. There was additional one yesterday.
First of all, do we have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have a second.
I've written it down.
I know ironically, we just went through the board's rules and procedures, but I'll take this opportunity to mention something. So in the past, when we've had these, again, 99% of the time, it's a motion, it's a second, it's a rubber stamp. There have been some situations where there's multiple people that are qualified for a position. And I know that the county does this process a little differently. Mr. Attorney, I have to rely on you for this, but they sort of take nominations and then they vote on them individually. I want to make sure that the board understands if you're not the first one to jump out there and get your person nominated, I want to make sure that we all understand that if we want to change that and open it up, we can certainly do that. Any clarification?
Yes, sir, and those are for the at-large votes. Oftentimes it's by award, it makes it easy, but when it's not by award, it has the potential to become a scrum and a race to make the first motion.
So we have a motion and a second for a gentleman that has previously submitted his information and that will share with the board. Do we have any further discussion?
Mayor, yes. I had suggested to Alderman Brinson that there was another candidate who had expressed a desire to be appointed to the committee. He ultimately was not selected, so I brought his name up just in discussion with Alderman Brinson, you know, as a possible candidate for the board to consider. I understand the advisory committee's desire to find somebody that was, say, maybe a non-cyclist, more of a pedestrian viewpoint, and I certainly appreciate that. The individual that I had suggested, he's a collegiate cycling champion, but more importantly, he's got a young family. So I thought the perspective of children was important enough that it might be worth submitting his name for the board's consideration. Alderman Brinson got back to me and let me know that there is another member of the advisory committee that does have children. So at least there is one other person that can offer some perspective on that. I also heard back from the individual, and he let me know that based on his workload, that he would ask not to be nominated because he was concerned that his current workload might become a problem with him attending the advisory committee meeting. So again, I don't have any problem with the individual that has been identified by Alderman Brinson. I know we did have another applicant come through just recently, and I know that individual. I think he's got some interesting background that could be a benefit, but I think everybody who had originally expressed a desire had a background and experience that it could be a benefit. So I'm willing to defer and go with Alderman Brinson's recommendation. It does seem to fit what the advisory committee was looking for, so I think he'd be a good addition.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the nomination say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, he's on there. Does anybody else have any appointments? I didn't see any on the agenda, so. Okay, we'll move on to attorney's report.
Nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
City manager's report.
Well, I did want to let you know that our finance department has recently committed, Kim, if you'd like to pass these out, has recently completed our second annual Citizens Financial Report. I want to give a big shout out to Helen Stevens, one of our senior accountants who's responsible for putting this out. This basically gives an overview of our most recent budget year that we completed June 30th of this year. It talks about the major projects that we completed, some goals and objectives, and gives a real snapshot of where we stand financially. So it's not very detailed, but it gives the information that citizens need to know to find out how the city of New Bern fared in the past year. I think it's a very good document. It's also going to be available online. We're also going to put it out to the media and also through social media as well. So please take some time to look through this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask myself or Kim about this.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all?
That's it.
Okay, new business, starting with Alderman Brinson.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I have is primary voting is upon us. Early voting starts Thursday, February 15th, and they are actually have a Sunday that will include early voting, and it will run until the actual primary on March 5th. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Alderman Best.
Nothing, sir.
Alderman Kinsey.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Understand that when I left the other day that the voting came about again. My thought is that the state and the feds changed it to an off-year election due to the way the election cycle went for years in the city of New Bern. And I don't think it needs to be changed at all. It needs to stay the same.
Yeah, I don't think we took a vote. I think
I just heard it was just a conversation.
I think the discussion was to have a presentation made.
That's right.
Okay.
And so we're waiting for the folks from the Board of Elections to let us know when they can come and do a presentation.
Okay, very good.
Okay, that's all.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderman Royal.
Yes, I have one item, please.
Sure.
The New Bern Area Improvement Association has been raising funds to provide a sprinkler system and an alarm monitoring system at the Omega Center. And I am very, very glad that they were able to provide some of the funding. To date, they have, out of the cost of $149,379 for the total project, they have raised and paid $87,000, leaving a remaining balance to be paid of $62,379. Being that it is an eligible project, and I'm looking at the city manager, I would like to allocate $62,379 of my ARPA funds for them to complete the sprinkler system and the alarm monitoring system.
Sure.
Unfortunately, because it's not allowed by state statute for us to do that, then we can't obligate the ARPA funds either, the ARPA enabled funds. So.
And it's not allowable because?
I can find the exact statute and send it to you, but in order to do so, it must be museums, arts, and fire, I believe.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that we took the revenue replacement option for the ARPA funds.
Right, but we still need to follow, we still have to, it still has to be allowable for the city to participate in that type of expense.
So if this is essentially a nonprofit that it's going to, I'm looking for the.
We'll dig into it.
Yeah, this is the infrastructure, right, that you're digging into, or that you're adding to?
Say that again.
Isn't it adding to the infrastructure of the Omega Center?
Yes, sprinkler system.
It is part of that, yes. Yes.
We'll review the state statutes to see what we can and cannot do.
Okay, and when you, just a question, when you say fire, are you referring to, you mentioned fire, what is that reference to? I don't want to dig too deep because I want you to find the path for this, but.
I believe if I recall, it was something along the lines of like volunteer fire, that kind of thing. Then we could, with arts, museums, and I believe fire was the next thing.
Fire stations.
Volunteers, yeah, fire stations.
And so you said you will research it and you'll
We
get back to
will,
us.
yes, we will.
Thank you so
We can
much.
come back to the next meeting
Thank
on
you.
that.
Is that all, Alderman Will?
That is it. Thank you, sir.
Alderman Pruitt?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, I just want to mention, I had the opportunity this weekend actually to go to the Omega Center on Saturday. They had a prostrate screening. There was, I'm going to estimate, over 100 men from really within the community there. It was a great event. Phil Ford was there for the Carolina fans. My son took a picture with him. My son's taller than him, so I thought that was a little interesting. But I want to give everybody a reminder that this Saturday is the Black History Parade. It starts in front of 3rd Avenue in front of the new Stanley White Recreation Center. We approved the road closure tonight that had a little modification, so if you're able to come out, it's always a great event. I know Alderman Taylor, former Alderman Taylor, and Vision Ford done a really good job. They're getting a lot of entrants, so it should be a really good parade, and that's 11 o'clock on Saturday is when that starts. So, anything else come before the Board of Aldermen tonight? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.